In this video, I want to show you an example of a really hard math SAT problem, one that probably 99% of people will miss. Now, before I do that, keep in mind 35% of the SAT is algebra, 35% is more advanced algebra, only 15% is trig and geometry, and about 15% is data analysis as well as problem solving. Now, what's really different about the SAT and the reason you want to study is that they're gonna cover standards that you learned in your math classes, okay? But to make sure that you really understand the formulas and the thought processes, they're gonna throw tricks in there. So really, you probably have the knowledge of how to solve these problems. They're just problems you've never seen before. Your math teacher would never replace all of the x integers with variables in an XY chart, like the problem I'm about to show you. So take a look at this problem, and hopefully looking at this, you'll be like, oh wow, this would be something I would never get on my own unless I actually studied. Which is why you need to go through some practice problems, because this isn't going to be something most people just roll out of bed in the morning on a Saturday and it just clicks. So, all right, take a look.
I'll read the problem real quick. It says the table above shows three different values for x with three corresponding values for y. The variable p represents a constant. Which linear equation represents the relationship between x and y? This is what I'm talking about. When would you ever see p in the x variable? It's just something you don't see in algebra, okay? But don't let that throw you for a loop. We want to take what we know about x and y tables. This is a linear equation. We're going to try to use y equals mx plus b. So naturally, what are we going to do? We're going to try to find slope m and see if we can identify what the y-intercept is. When we look at our answer choices, we notice those are all actually standard form. So we'll need to convert this at the end. So for starters, let's look at slope. We can still use our y minus y over x minus x slope formula. So we're going to take those two points that I circled there and plug those in. So we're going to do 30 minus 22 over p minus negative p, which then simplifies to 8 over 2p. So we know our slope. How can we find the y-intercept? So if we look at our xy chart, we look at the p's, notice that they did plus 2p and then only plus 1p. Okay, so they skipped over 0. So if I put 0 in there, again, that takes some critical thinking. I'll notice that again in the y, they went plus 8, but then they went plus 4, which means they skipped 26. So my y-intercept there is actually 0, 26. So now we have our y equals mx plus b information. We can go ahead and plug in y equals 8 over 2p x plus 26. And we do notice that we can simplify 8 over 2 to just 4 over p. That is beginning to look a lot more like their answer choices. We still need to get rid of the divided by p. So we're going to multiply the entire equation by p, which then gives us py equals 4x plus 26p. The last thing I need to do is go ahead and move the x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides of the equation, ending with negative 4x plus py equals 26p. The answer is A. So as you see, when I explain it, it makes sense. It's not too bad. You're just using a lot of Algebra 1 skills, okay? But if you've never done a problem like this before, it's really hard in the moment and the pressure of the SAT to come up with something like this all on your own. So practice, 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 and you'll be able to complete problems like this with no issue.